Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Then,
New interface.
yes, brand new interface that we're going to be using to teach everyone the introductions to the Bitrick VC King. That's its name for now. VC stands for volume and capacity. All
Okay.
right, that's what we're measuring in this game. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is for everyone who's new and to understand the use of this game is made so that we can get a conceptual understanding of how this fluid volume works, especially for things like namely medicine and chemistry. All right.
Mm,
So
okay.
right here we have a little eyedropper
Mm-hmm.
and some beakers. These are very common tools used in the medical and the chemical engineering space. And our first unit is going to start out with a milliliter. And since milliliters are so tiny, we're going to represent them with a drop. In the medical industry and in scientific tools, we have tools specifically made for dispensing 1 milliliter drops. So this is a 1 milliliter dropper, and this is the 1 milliliter drop. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, as we continue to fill up this, oops, let me explain that part one more time. Okay, so over here we have our 1 milliliter dropper, and there are specific tools used in the science and chemical engineering space to dispense specific 1 milliliter drops out into our play space or into beakers and everything in the future. So what we've done is we've created a one drop that we can use here to represent it inside of the dropper, so we can have that conceptual understanding. If we wanted 2 drops, we would just create another drop like that. 3 drops, the same. 4 drops,
And so on and so forth.
exactly, all the way up to 5 drops. Now, once we get to 5 drops, we can group inside of 1 teaspoon. There are 5 milliliters inside of 1 teaspoon. All right.
Okay.
So then again, you can see inside of it, oh, there are 5 milliliters inside of this teaspoon. So if we were to come over here into the second cup, how many milliliters will we have?
So then we'll have 10 milliliters.
Perfect. And how do we know that?
Okay, there's 5 milliliters in 1 teaspoon. And in this case, we have 2 teaspoons. So then we do 5 plus 5, that equals 10. Or as you
Perfect.
can see, we have a representation this time. So it makes things easier.
Excellent. Yeah. So then if we drag this out into our play space over here, um, for a tablespoon, how many milliliters do we have inside of it?
So then we'd have 15 milliliters.
Very good. We can just count up 5, 10, 15. All right. So moving back, give me 1 second. Okay. Um, so we've gone over our milliliters pieces, our teaspoons pieces. Now it's time to go over our centiliter. Now our centiliter, this might sound new to you, Kira, or you might remember it from yesterday, but a centiliter is made up of 2 teaspoons, and
Yeah,
it has 10 milliliters inside of it. All right.
I remember
So
that.
perfect. So we go from milliliters to teaspoons to centiliters, and then lastly, our last shape is tablespoon.
Which is half an ounce.
Very good, which is half an ounce. So if we wanted to go ahead and place this value that we have up here, which is 20 milliliters,
Mhm.
explain to me the process that we would use in placing 20 milliliters into this play space, Kira.
All right, I'm gonna do 20 milliliters for us. Okay, so like I mentioned before, there are 5 milliliters in a teaspoon. So we can evenly put 5 into 20. So let me show you how we do that. So first, can I move things? Oh, I can. All right, thanks for the permission. All right, so first,
You're welcome.
we can move the tablespoons. Oh, I should have copied it. But we can move the tablespoons, well, 1 tablespoon into the tablespoon column. How do I copy that? So it'd be 5, 10, 15 milliliters. So oh Lord, let me copy these and put them back up there. Or not. Okay, we don't need it for now. So 5, 10, 15. We have 15 milliliters. We need 20. So that means we just need 5 more milliliters. And we have a perfect teaspoon for that. So what we'll do is grab this teaspoon and drag them under the centiliter beaker. So this would be half a centiliter. So we have 5, 10, 15, and 20 milliliters in total. So it'd be a tablespoon and 1 centiliter or 1 teaspoon.
Excellent.
One
So
centiliter. I caught myself on a mistake. I said 1 centiliter. I meant to say half a centiliter or 1 teaspoon. There we go. Now you can keep going.
way to catch yourself. So this play space works a little differently than how we've made it work before. So in this play space, it's a little difficult to see. We've made them very subtle, but right here we have little markers with the values. We have 1 teaspoon or 5 milliliters, 2 teaspoons for 10 milliliters, and then 1 tablespoon for 15 milliliters. When you're playing with these pieces in this play space and when you use the printout as you follow along at home, you want to place each piece inside of the column with its name. Okay. So if you were to place 5 milliliters into the play space or 1 teaspoon, you would drop that directly into the centiliters area, or not into centiliters. You would drop that directly
Oh,
to the teaspoons area
all
right
right.
here.
So that's what I did. I should have moved it into teaspoons instead of centiliters.
Yes, but
Um,
I never taught you that. So this is why we're going through this activity so that we can make sure everybody understands how the game works.
well,
So, mm-hmm,
I was gonna say, well, it technically wasn't wrong, but we have a teaspoon column. We got to put it in there. Yes.
right, exactly. So, and also one thing to consider is that we're only going to fill up to this line here.
Yeah. Once it
Uh,
overflows, once we hit 2, we have to drag it into the centiliters column.
exactly, which would be right here. This would be 2 teaspoons at 10 milliliters. Now we have some extra space at the top that we're going to leave empty because when you're actually in the workplace
Mm-hmm.
applying this math, you want to leave some room at the top so that you don't carry a dangerous chemical or some important medicine across the room and it's filled all the way up to the brim.
Yeah.
Okay, so we leave that extra empty space there. All of our milliliters are going to go directly into the dropper over here to the right. And same deal for centiliters and tablespoons. As we continue to fill up, we're going to leave this empty space right here so that we have room to pour it in the future. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Okay, cool. So now, Akira, I want you to explain that back to me in the way that you understand it so I can make sure that we're both on the same page.
Okay. So pretty much what you've said was first, can I do this? I can move it. What you were saying is let's just place this teaspoon for reference. We're going to leave space at the top so then we can have more space to, I should have copied it, have more space to stack it and move it over to the next column. That's what I've understood.
Um, let me handle that. So you're saying that, well, not quite. Let me do a better job of explaining.
All right.
So when we place the pieces, when we place our values into the play space, we are going to leave some empty space at the top here. The value will not, after we fill up this teaspoon beaker up to 5 milliliters, we want it fill up past it. All right, we would jump straight over into the second beaker because this beaker's full. We don't want to fill it up too much because then we risk spilling things. We want to treat this as if this is an actual piece of medicine or liquid gold that we want to try to hold and preserve as much of as possible.
Okay.
So we don't even want to go into this empty space up here. We want to fill it up to the line right here at the 1 tablespoon mark. And then
walk across the room for a safe transfer.
Exactly.
Okay. I got it.
Okay, cool. So now let me reset the play space. All right. So now, Kira, explain that back to me so I can make sure that we're on the same page.
All right, we're explaining it back. So let's say we have a teaspoon, all right? We're going to treat this as if this was a lab. So we're going to put that in there. We don't want to fill it up all the way because if we did that, technically, all the teaspoons would fill out our, let's say, our liquid gold or whatever. So then that's why we're leaving this extra space up here for that exact reason. I mean, it's not much to explain, but that's how I got it.
Okay, so what about in the centiliters puzzle? How would we fill up the spaces there on the centiliters beaker?
All right, I got you. So once we get over 5 milliliters, let's say we add an additional teaspoon, we'd have to immediately carry it over. And then again, we'll have to add, or we could just, oh, I just deleted that. My bad, yeah. We could just carry this whole centiliter, well, 10 milliliters. There we go. My brain stopped working. And then again, we'll leave space on top in the centiliters column for safe transfer in our lab to then transfer it over to tablespoons once we have an additional 5 milliliters up here. And then we'll just drag that over again, leave that space, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. Okay, so let me get control again.
Okay.
So I want us to go through that exercise. I think that using that whole actual pouring analogy is really helpful and helps to make it easier to understand. So let's say, for example, we have some hydrogen peroxide that we need to measure out into a small beaker for an experiment. Okay.
All right.
But we don't know when we should stop. We want to Can you hear me? Hello?
I can now.
Okay. Let me start over then. Do, 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 do. Let's say that we have an experiment that we need to what would be a good thing for it? Okay. Let's say that we have a type of acid that we need to transfer. I'm going to stick with the hydrogen peroxide analogy. Let's say that we have some hydrogen peroxide and it's inside of a little itty bitty container. All right. Or we have a piece of medicine and it's inside of a little itty bitty container. And we need to portion it out into a 1 teaspoon container, a 2 teaspoon container, and a 3 teaspoon container. All right.
Okay.
So count up as if we were actually had a little bottle and we're putting the little dropper inside of it and taking the liquid out and putting it inside of a new container. So imagine we have a little bottle over here of the medicine and we need to use the dropper to fill up the dropper to then transfer that into a teaspoon. All right. And we need to fill up 5 drops inside of this teaspoon spot for our first experiment. Okay.
Stop at the notches so it can be accurate and leave the space at the top.
Exactly. We're going to fill it up to that notch, and then we'll pour it into its own container later. Okay.
Okay.
So how would we do that?
Okay. So, you want me to start with? I'll start with milliliters. Okay, I'm just going to drag that. One moment. I'm going to drag this milliliter. Let's say that we just have 5 milliliters already. So now we have 5 milliliters. We know we need to transfer 5 drops into the teaspoon because a teaspoon holds 5 milliliters or 5 drops. So in this case, that means we'll drag a teaspoon down into the teaspoon column. And since we want accurate data, or rather just an accurate amount so we don't end up burning somebody or something, we're going to stop at the notch, which is 1 teaspoon because that's made up of 5 droplets. So perfect. Now we're walking across the room. We're carrying it because we need to add more, right? We don't want to overfill it, don't want to overspill it, overflow it. So we're going to carry this all the way over, right? And boom. Let's say this one already has one in there. Okay, then we need to add 5 more additional droplets with our dropper here that consists of 5 milliliters. So we'll carry that over and put them into the centiliters beaker. Okay, now let's say we're just mixing it with acid because we're dangerous and we're experimenting. Okay, so what that means is if we want to add one more and we want accurate data, we're going to have to carry that across the room again into the tablespoon, which is 15 milliliters or 15 droplets in our case. So what we're going to do is drag the tablespoon all the way we'll put 15 droplets into the tablespoon section and stop at the notch. So again, that we can have accurate data and so on and so forth. Whatever you want to do with your hydrogen peroxide acid. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would do it though.
Excellent.
Hold on. Let me get our piece back. There we go.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that excellent. Say what?
I feel like I over-explained that.
It's okay. Again, we're learning. We're figuring this out. So, what we're going to do is say, for example, that we need to gather 20 milliliters of medicine. All right.
Okay.
But we don't know, and we have these different containers. We have a teaspoon container, a centiliter container, and a tablespoon container. We don't know how many of these containers we need to properly hold all the medicine yet. All right. We don't know how many of these containers we need to properly hold the medicine.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fill up our 5 milliliter dropper. All right. So we're going to squeeze in 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops, and 5 drops. Okay. Now that our 5 milliliter dropper is full, we're going to put each of these drops inside of the teaspoons. You're going to go glug, 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 glug. And now we have 1 teaspoon full. All right. And this teaspoon has 5 milliliters inside of it. We're not quite at 20 yet, but we're on our way there. Okay. Let's keep on filling up our milliliter dropper. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 milliliters. Again, the dropper's full, so we need to take all 5 of these drops and put them inside of a container. But hold up. This is some pretty important medicine. If we were to put all 5 of these milliliters inside of this teaspoon beaker, it would overflow. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this teaspoon and we're going to pour it inside of the next size up, the next beaker up. All right. And this beaker is the centiliter beaker. This can hold up to 2 teaspoons or 10 milliliters. All right. So now I can transfer these drops from this dropper inside of the centiliter. Glug, 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 glug.
Mhm.
Drip, drip, drop. Now we have 2 centiliters inside, or we have 2 teaspoons, in other words, 1 centiliter, or again, in other words, 10 milliliters inside of this beaker. All right. We are
All
halfway
right.
there on our way to 20. So now, if I were to, Kira, help count up for me. Help me count up to fill up this milliliter dropper so that we
All
can
right.
count how many milliliters we would have.
All right. So we're halfway there already. So we have 10, so we need 10 more. So let's keep on counting that up. I'm going to have control. So then we have 1 milliliter. Then we have 2 milliliters. Then we'd have 3 milliliters, 4 milliliters, and then we'd have 5 milliliters. Now, 5 milliliters. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these and now we're going to drop them all into the teaspoons column or the teaspoons beaker. So now we're going to drop all of that down there. That's all in the teaspoons. And now, boom, we have 5 droplets in the teaspoons. So we have to move it over for an additional 5 to get our 20. But oh no, we can't add anymore because then it's going to overflow out of the container. We'll lose our important medicine and also our jobs. So what we're going to do is, well, first move the centiliters to the next one over. Once we do that, oh, I just duplicated them. That's all right. So listen, now we have a 2 centiliter, well, 1 centiliter, and a teaspoon, aka 15 milliliters. But also, that's a tablespoon. So we can all just pour this liquid into the tablespoon beaker. Boom. Now we have 15 drops out of the 20. So then we're going to go back to our little dropper. Then we're going to fill it back up to 5 milliliters. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So now, again, to get our 20, all of these droplets will finally go into our teaspoon beaker. So once they're all in there, boom, we're going to drag our 5 droplets over and put them into our teaspoon column or half a centiliter or 5 additional milliliters. So that'll give us 5, 10, 15, and 20 drops or 20 milliliters in total.
Excellent.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much for helping me out with that explanation. And just to recap, whenever we're going to place a value inside of the play space, and then to preserve the measurement and to make sure that we don't have any spills, we have to fill up the prior container first before we start moving on to the next. All right, so first we fill up the milliliters, and then the milliliters droppers go inside of the teaspoon, which fills up to be 1 teaspoon like this.
Okay.
Then after we fill up another 5 milliliters inside of the dropper, we can't put it inside of the teaspoon area yet because then it'll overflow and we risk spilling it. So what we'll do is we'll pour this teaspoon into the centiliters container, and then we'll pour all of our drops inside of the centiliters container as well, which will give us 10 milliliters. Then again, you continue counting on and on. You have to create another, fill up your 5 milliliter dropper again, and then put that inside of the teaspoon space, which will then fill up. And now our teaspoon is full and our centiliter is full. So what we can do now even is, because as soon as we know when we add one more drop into the puzzle, we're going to have to move these containers. So we're going to pour the centiliters over here inside of the tablespoons beaker, and then we're going to pour the teaspoon inside of the tablespoon beaker as well. Then that gives us room to continue to build out, or to continue to fill up our dropper one more time to another full 5 milliliters, at which point we will then transfer it inside of the teaspoon cup for one last time to get our value of 20 milliliters. All right. So 20 milliliters in this system would be 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. Okay,
All right.
cool. Thank you again, Kira, for being a wonderful assistant and helping me out with this puzzle.
The productive
And
struggle.
say what?
The productive struggle is real. But continue.
Um, and thank you everyone for watching. This is going to be the introduction to the Bitrick VC game for volume and capacity. We're going to continue to have some fun placing different values and counting up, filling up our beakers as we continue to go along. But make sure that you submit this grouping system in your mind and use the milliliter dropper and the beaker containers to help you get a conceptual understanding of how these values group into one another. Also, don't be afraid to count. Don't feel like you have to memorize everything. We put the drops here inside of these blocks for a reason, so that you can just immediately see, oh, we can count up 5, 10 milliliters are inside of a centiliter, or we have 5, 10, 5, 10, 15, 20 milliliters inside of 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. So don't neglect to use this as we continue to move forward in the future. All right.
All right.
Thank you again for joining us, family. Look forward to picking up with you tomorrow, and happy learning.
Happy learning.